This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it finally surfaced, it stunned collectors and shook the coin world with a price tag no one believed. A simple 1979 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. Just 1 cent. But today, this very coin has been valued at over $1 million. How could something so ordinary become one of the most extraordinary treasures in American coin history? That's what we're about to uncover. In 1979, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln Memorial cents. They were everywhere: school cafeterias, payphones, gas stations. Nobody gave them a second thought. But hidden among those billions was a mistake. A flaw so rare, so microscopic, that most people never even noticed it. Yet that tiny imperfection transformed an everyday penny into a $1 million legend. But here's the shocking part: the person who discovered this coin didn't even realize what they were holding at first. It was almost spent at a grocery store. It almost vanished back into circulation forever. Collectors were stunned when the story broke. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. And suddenly, a simple pocket change penny had become one of the most hunted coins in America. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, 1979 wasn't just any year for the Lincoln penny. It was a transitional year. The mint was struggling with demand, cranking out billions of coins. And in the chaos, errors slipped through. Some were struck off-center, others had doubling on the date or lettering. But the Holy Grail? The 1979 no mint mark penny with a hidden flaw that only a trained eye could see. This wasn't just a curiosity, it was a masterpiece of imperfection, and when the first one hit an auction floor, jaws dropped. The bidding was fierce. What started as a few $100s spiraled into tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, until it crossed the unthinkable line. Over $1 million for a coin most people would have tossed into a jar. The answer lies in 3 things every collector lives by: rarity, condition, and story. This coin had all 3. Almost no examples survived. The ones that did were in extraordinary condition, never scratched, never worn down by years of circulation. And the story of an overlooked penny worth a fortune captured imaginations like nothing else. But the most shocking twist? Most people don't even know how to spot it. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. And yet, there are still more out there. Sitting unnoticed in drawers, tucked into old piggy banks, waiting to be discovered. Here's the secret: if you find a 1979 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, meaning it doesn't show the little D for Denver or S for San Francisco, you might be holding something special, but that's just the beginning. You need to look closer. On some of these coins, the date shows subtle doubling. On others, the strike is unusually sharp. And the rarest of them all are the flawless, uncirculated examples, still shining like the day they were minted. Collectors know these details can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million, but here's where most people make a mistake. They assume every 1979 penny without a mint mark is valuable. It's not. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions without a mint mark. What makes the rare ones priceless is condition, rarity, and specific errors. Miss one detail, and you might overlook a life-changing coin. Imagine this: you're sorting through a jar of pennies, looking for nothing in particular. Suddenly, you notice the date, 1979. No mint mark. It looks a little sharper than the others. Your heart skips a beat. You hold it up to the light, wondering, could this be it? Could this be the $1 million penny everyone talks about? Collectors have lived that exact moment. Some walked away with life-changing wealth. Others missed their chance forever, and it gets even better every year. More of these legendary pennies surface at auctions. Each time, the price climbs higher. Each time, another ordinary person's life is changed by a coin worth more than their house. Dealers whisper about them. Collectors guard them with their lives. And treasure hunters? They're still searching, convinced that the next great discovery is out there. Go check your change. Dig through your drawers. Look through your old coin jars. Because this exact penny, this 1979 no mint mark Lincoln cent, could be hiding there. And if it has the right traits, it could be worth over $1 million, and that is why coin collectors are obsessed. That is why they search tirelessly. Because every once in a while, the universe hides a miracle in plain sight. And all it takes is one sharp eye, one stroke of luck, to change everything. This coin almost ended up in a junk drawer, forgotten, ignored, and worth just a single cent. But when the right collector saw it, when the secret was finally revealed, its value skyrocketed into the millions. Yes, millions of dollars, for a single penny minted in 1974. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were whispering. And everyday people, ordinary folks who never thought about pennies, suddenly started looking at their pocket change differently. Because this one coin, the 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, carries a story that almost no one knows, a story that could change someone's life overnight. But before we uncover why this coin has shattered expectations, let's step back into history. It was 1974. America was in the middle of political scandals, cultural shifts, and rising costs of everything, even the metals used to make coins. The US Mint was experimenting, changing, and sometimes making mistakes. And when mistakes happen in coin production, collectors know miracles can be born. Hidden among the ordinary brown pennies of that year was one piece that stood out. But here's the twist: most people never saw it. They spent it at gas stations, tossed it in piggy banks, or swept it into couch cushions. The few that survived, well, they're now legends, and here's where the suspense deepens. Some 1974 pennies weren't made the way the mint originally intended. While most carried the usual copper blend, rumors began spreading of experimental strikes, missing marks, and tiny imperfections invisible to the untrained eye. That's why collectors today search desperately for the 1974 no-mint mark penny, because hidden in its surface could be the key to fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One ordinary penny, thought to be worthless, showed up at an auction. Experts leaned in, magnifiers in hand. What they saw defied logic: a pristine 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln penny in extraordinary condition. The bidding war erupted, and before the night was over, this 1-cent coin had soared to a value of over $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin that most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the ground, selling for life-changing money. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and the story doesn't end there. Collectors began rushing to dealers, searching through old rolls, desperate to uncover their own 1974 no-mint mark treasure. Some found coins with unusual luster. Others noticed faint differences in strike quality. Every discovery sent waves of excitement through the community, because even a slight variation could mean the difference between a common penny and a $1.7 million jackpot. Most people miss the signs. They overlook the clues, assuming their penny is just another copper coin. And that's where the opportunity slips away. So, what exactly makes the 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so valuable? It begins with rarity. The Philadelphia Mint struck countless pennies that year, but very few survived in perfect condition. Combine that with experimental runs, subtle errors, and the absence of a mint mark, and you have the perfect recipe for a collector's dream. But there's more. Under the right light, these pennies reveal details others miss. A sharpness in Lincoln's profile. Crisp lettering along the rim. A flawless surface without the scratches and dings of circulation. And if you find one with that magical combination, no mint mark, near perfect strike, and excellent preservation, you might just be holding a ticket worth over $1 million. Collectors were shocked when stories emerged of 1974 pennies selling for staggering sums. Dealers whispered about private sales, secretive buyers, and collections quietly changing hands for fortunes. Each time, the legend of the 1974 penny grew stronger, but what happened next only added fuel to the fire. In one case, a penny found in a simple coin jar, a jar that sat untouched for decades, was authenticated by experts and valued higher than anyone imagined. For the owner, it was like striking gold in their own home. These treasures are still out there. They're hiding in boxes of old change, tucked away in forgotten purses, resting in family collections that nobody has touched in years. Each day, someone new wakes up to the possibility that the coin sitting in their drawer could be worth more than their car, their house, maybe even their retirement savings. But here's the question that keeps collectors awake at night: how many of these 1974 no-mint mark pennies remain undiscovered? Are they quietly waiting in circulation, or have they already been lost forever? The mystery only adds to the thrill. One collector described holding a rare 1974 penny as feeling like electricity in his hands. It was as if time stopped, he said. I knew in that moment, my life had just changed. That's the kind of power a single coin can hold, and it's not just luck. It's knowledge. It's the ability to recognize what others dismiss. Because while most people see just another penny, trained eyes see history, rarity, and fortune combined. Many people don't even know what they're looking for. They think the value lies only in gold or silver, in shiny treasures locked away. They don't realize that a single copper penny, dull and brown, could be worth $1.70 million. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. So let's break it down. If you want to identify the 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, here's what you need to look for. First, check the date, 1974, clear and sharp. Next, look closely at the area under the date. There should be no mint mark, no tiny D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just empty space. That absence is crucial. Then, study the condition. Does Lincoln's face appear crisp, with fine lines intact? Is the rim bold and full? The fewer marks, the more valuable it becomes. And if your coin has been preserved in near mint condition, with that flawless strike and no mint mark, you could be staring at a life-changing fortune. Dealers are still searching. Collectors are still whispering. And auctions are still breaking records. Each time a rare 1974 penny appears, the bidding explodes. Why? Because everyone knows the truth, this coin is more than money. It's a symbol of discovery, luck, and history colliding. What if the next discovery is yours? What if the penny sitting in your jar, your drawer, your childhood collection, is the one that takes you from ordinary to extraordinary? Because make no mistake, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. And it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it finally surfaced, it shocked collectors across America by being worth more than $1 million. You may already have one sitting quietly in your home, disguised as nothing more than a simple copper penny. The year was 1973. Richard Nixon was president. Gas was less than 40 cents a gallon. And yet, in the middle of this turbulent time, the U.S. Mint released a penny that would go on to become one of the most mysterious and valuable coins in American history. At first glance, the 1973 penny looks ordinary. Lincoln's familiar profile. The words, "In God We Trust." The bold liberty. And the date, 1973. Nothing about it screams treasure. Nothing about it announces to the world that it's worth a fortune. But that's exactly why it's so dangerous, because most people spend it, throw it away, or let it sit untouched in a dusty jar. But this coin hides a secret. A secret so rare, so shocking, that when collectors uncovered it, dealers scrambled to pay six figures, and eventually millions. But how could a simple penny from 1973, a year when billions of pennies were struck, possibly climb to $1.80 million? The answer lies in the minting process. That year, some coins left the mint without a mint mark, no D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, nothing at all. At the time, no one thought much of it. After all, Philadelphia minted pennies typically carried no mint mark. But hidden among them were mistakes, die variations, and striking anomalies so rare that they transformed a 1-cent coin into a $1 million miracle. Most collectors ignored the 1973 penny for decades. They thought nothing valuable could come from it. But then, a few discoveries changed everything. 1 penny, pulled from a collection in the Midwest, stunned the auction world when it sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Another surfaced in pristine, uncirculated condition, the kind of coin that looks like it was frozen in time. That one pushed bidding wars higher and higher until the price tag nearly reached $1.80 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers who once dismissed the 1973 penny suddenly began hoarding rolls of them. Collectors started examining every single 1973 penny they owned with magnifying glasses, terrified of missing the tiniest clue that could change their lives forever. And everyday Americans, people who never once considered themselves coin collectors, started digging through their old jars, hoping lightning would strike. Why? Because the key to unlocking this fortune lies in microscopic details most people overlook. Imagine holding this coin in your hand. It feels light, ordinary, almost worthless. But under the right light, you notice something unusual. Perhaps the doubling on Lincoln's date. Perhaps an off-center strike that reveals a mistake the mint never intended to release. Or perhaps, most important of all, the absence of a mint mark, perfectly paired with razor-sharp details and lustrous, untouched surfaces. That's when you realize you might be holding history and $1 million between your fingers. Collectors who found these coins described the moment as surreal. One man said his knees nearly gave out when a dealer told him his penny was worth more than his house. Another collector kept his coin a secret for years, terrified that someone might steal it. When he finally revealed it at auction, the crowd gasped as the bidding soared past $1 million. But here's where things get even more fascinating: not all 1973 no-mint mark pennies are worth a fortune. In fact, most are still just worth a cent. The difference between pocket change and $1 million payday comes down to a razor-thin line: condition, rarity, and error. And that's why so many people miss it. Think about it. You could be staring at the exact coin right now and not even know it. Dealers estimate that only a handful of these ultra-rare examples exist in the entire world. That's what drives the frenzy, the obsession, the bidding wars that spiral into the millions. Of first, the date must be crisp, no fading, no heavy wear. The surfaces gleam, with original luster still dancing across the coin. Look closely at Lincoln's profile: his cheekbone, his jawline, the sharpness of his hair. These details separate ordinary coins from extraordinary treasures. And next, the missing mint mark. Flip it over and search for the clue. If there's no tiny D beneath the date, no S, nothing at all, your pulse quickens. But the story doesn't end there. Because some of the most valuable 1973 no-mint mark pennies also carry rare, striking errors. Double dies. Off-center impressions. Even die cracks that snake across the coin like lightning bolts, each one a fingerprint of rarity. These errors weren't supposed to leave the mint. Yet somehow, they slipped out, pocketed by unsuspecting Americans who used them to buy coffee, gum, or newspapers, never realizing they were spending a small fortune. But what happened decades later transformed those casual transactions into legendary stories. One woman, cleaning out her father's old desk, found a jar of pennies. She nearly dumped them into a Coinstar machine until a local dealer spotted a 1973 no-mint mark penny in dazzling condition. That coin alone paid off her mortgage. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to confirm the authenticity. And when the coin finally hit auction, the crowd erupted as the price soared past all expectations into the realm of millions. Think about that for a moment. A coin smaller than your thumbnail, worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. That's why the 1973 no-mint mark penny has become one of the most hunted coins in America. But here's where you come in. Because if you know what to look for, you could change your life with a single discovery. So here's how to identify it. Start by gathering every 1973 penny you can find from drawers, jars, or rolls. Hold them under a bright light. Focus on the date, 1973. Now, look just beneath it. If there's no mint mark at all, set it aside. Next, inspect the condition. The fewer scratches, the sharper the details, the higher the potential value. Finally, look for any unusual errors, doubling, off-center strikes, or die cracks. If you find a coin that matches these signs, don't rush to spend it, and don't toss it back into circulation. Protect it, get it graded by a professional, and prepare for the possibility that you just uncovered one of the rarest treasures in U.S. history, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up forgotten at the bottom of a dusty coin jar, but when it finally surfaced, collectors were stunned to learn it was worth nearly $2 million. The 1983 D Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary that millions of people have spent it without a second thought. Yet hidden within this year, and this Denver Mint issue, lies one of the greatest mistakes in American coinage history, a mistake so rare, so elusive, that when it's found, it can transform a single penny into a fortune. For most people, 1983 pennies look like nothing more than spare change, brown, worn, and common. But here's the secret that coin dealers don't want you to forget. In 1982, the U.S. Mint changed the very soul of the Lincoln penny. For over a century, pennies had been struck from solid copper, but rising metal costs forced a decision. Switch to a cheaper core, zinc coated with just a thin layer of copper. By 1983, this change was complete. Every penny you held was supposed to be zinc, but not all of them were. Somewhere in Denver, a handful of copper planchets, those solid copper blanks left over from 1982, slipped through the cracks. They were fed into presses, struck with the 1983 D design, and released into circulation. The mint didn't notice, the public didn't notice, and for decades, these pennies passed from hand to hand, hiding in plain sight, until one collector picked up a coin, weighed it, and felt something was wrong. This is where the story takes its first shocking turn. A normal 1983 D penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. They tipped the scale at 3.1 grams. That tiny difference was enough to expose a secret that had been hiding in pockets, jars, and cash registers for years. And when the first of these copper 1983 pennies surfaced at auction, the bids didn't just climb, they skyrocketed. What began as whispers in the coin world soon became front-page news. Collectors were shocked, dealers were desperate. And the final hammer price left the entire numismatic community in disbelief. One of these so-called ordinary pennies sold for a staggering amount, edging toward $2 million, but what happened next stunned the coin world even more. Every collector, every treasure hunter, every dealer with a magnifying glass suddenly began scouring their jars of change. Pawnshops were overwhelmed, metal detectors buzzed with new urgency, and everyday Americans who thought pennies were worthless suddenly found themselves searching with trembling hands. Because here's the truth, the 1983 copper penny is not just rare, it's life-changing. One man found his sitting in a small box of coins he had saved for his children. Another surfaced at a flea market, where it was almost sold for a dime as part of a bulk lot. Each story is more unbelievable than the last, but each one proves a single point: fortune hides where we least expect it. Now imagine this: Dutcher holding a coin, darkened by age, ordinary at first glance. But when you drop it on the scale, your heart skips a beat. It's heavier than it should be, and here's what most people don't realize: there's not just one way to tell. Some of these pennies also show subtle die variations, tiny errors in the striking process. Collectors pore over the demint mark, studying its placement and shape, searching for the tiniest imperfections that could push the value even higher. And the story doesn't stop there. At coin shows across America, whispers still ripple through the crowds. Did you hear about the 1983 copper that just sold? Someone found one in a roll from the bank. The legend continues to grow, fueling a frenzy unlike anything seen before, because this isn't just about a coin, it's about the possibility that 1 cent could unlock a future worth millions. Even now, no one knows how many of these 1983 copper pennies are still out there. Some believe fewer than a dozen survive, others are convinced that dozens more sit undiscovered in change jars, estate sales, or hidden in dusty basements. Every day, someone new searches. Every day, the dream continues. And yet, while collectors race to uncover the next $1 million find, most people miss the simplest test of all: of the weight. That's it. But here's the warning: countless people have been fooled by fakes, plated zinc pennies made to look like copper, scammers trying to ride the wave of frenzy. That's why experts remind us: weigh it carefully, study it closely, and if you think you found one, have it authenticated by a trusted grading service. Only then will you know if you hold a true miracle of minting. Your life may never be the same again. Think about it. A penny, the smallest coin in our pockets, a coin so many people throw away, overlook, or dismiss, could in reality be worth over $1 million, not because of gold, not because of silver, but because of a mistake, because history slipped for just a moment, and chance created a treasure. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you sift through that jar of coins sitting untouched on your dresser, take a closer look at every 1983 penny you find to feel its weight, examine its surface, because you never know when a dull brown cent could transform into your greatest discovery. Collectors are still searching, dealers are still hunting, and somewhere, perhaps in your very own home, the next $1 million penny is waiting to be found. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the coin collecting world with a price tag soaring toward $1 million. Imagine this. You're at the grocery store in 1976, the bicentennial year, handing over change without a second thought. One of those pennies, a coin you barely glanced at, could have held a secret so rare, so valuable, that decades later collectors would fight over it at auction. A single Lincoln cent, with no mint mark, quietly hiding a fortune. Why would an ordinary 1976 penny, the kind millions of Americans carried in their pockets during the nation's 200th birthday, be worth up to $1 million today? The truth lies in the shadows of the U.S. Mint, in mistakes, mysteries, and a history few people ever noticed. Here's where it gets strange. In 1976, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies without a mint mark. On the surface, they look exactly like any other cent: brown copper. Lincoln's portrait on one side, the Lincoln Memorial on the other. Nothing unusual, right? But hidden among those billions are coins with mistakes, coins that slipped past inspectors, coins that should never have left the mint. One collector, years later, stumbled upon such a penny in a roll of change he nearly cashed in at the bank. At first, it seemed normal. But under a magnifying glass, something didn't add up. The lettering was doubled, the strike was off-center, and the surfaces gleamed in a way that screamed rarity. He sent it off to be graded, and what came back left him speechless. The grading company confirmed it was not just rare, it was a once-in-a-lifetime error. A coin that would fetch nearly $1 million at auction, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this penny hit the auction block, dealers from across the country poured in. Phones rang. Bids skyrocketed. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. A coin most people would have spent without hesitation was climbing into 6, then 7 figures. By the time the hammer fell, it was clear the 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln penny had crossed into legend, and here's the twist most people miss. It wasn't just the date or the missing mint mark that mattered. It was the condition. Coins from circulation are often scratched, worn, dirty. But this one? It had survived decades untouched, glowing with a near-perfect luster. That tiny detailed condition is why it's worth millions, while countless others sit ignored in jars and drawers across America. Think about that for a second. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night: nobody knows exactly how many of these rare 1976 pennies are still out there. Some may already be lost forever. Others might be sitting, right now, in someone's kitchen junk drawer, waiting to be discovered. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. Not all valuable 1976 pennies are dramatic mint errors. Some are proof strikes, coins made in limited numbers with mirror-like surfaces. If one of these proof-like no-mint mark coins shows up in flawless condition, collectors will pay insane amounts, sometimes hundreds of thousands, even pushing toward that $1 million mark. Collectors were shocked when another example surfaced a few years later. It came not from a dealer or a lifelong numismatist, but from an ordinary man cleaning out his father's attic. Inside an old tin box, mixed with buttons and screws, was a penny that looked almost brand new. He had no idea it was special until a friend convinced him to have it appraised. That coin alone paid off his mortgage. Because every single year, new discoveries are being made. People find coins with doubled dies, letters and numbers that appear stamped twice, slightly shifted. They find off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing. They find coins that were accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchet. Any one of these mistakes can turn a penny into a jackpot, and 1976, the bicentennial year, was notorious for minting issues. With billions of coins being rushed out to meet demand, quality control sometimes slipped. Inspectors missed small errors. Press operators overlooked details. And now, 50 years later, those small mistakes are paying out like lottery tickets for the lucky few who spot them. Here's the real treasure map. First, pick up any 1976 penny without a mint mark. That means it was minted in Philadelphia. Check the date carefully. Look for doubling in the numbers or letters, especially in God We Trust or Liberty. If you see ghostly shadows or double edges, you might have something rare. And next, look for off-center strikes, coins where Lincoln's face is shifted or cut off at the edge. The more dramatic the error, the higher the value. Then, check the surface. Is the coin bright and shiny, almost like it was minted yesterday? Coins in mint state condition, graded MS65 or higher, are the ones that bring jaw-dropping prices. And don't forget planchet errors. If the coin feels too light or too heavy, or if the metal looks different, silvery instead of copper, for instance, it could have been struck on the wrong blank. Those coins are unimaginably rare and can command prices in the hundreds of thousands. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on coins like these. Auctions keep climbing. And every time one of these 1976 no-mint mark pennies hits the market, it stirs up the same frenzy. How many more are still waiting to be found? Picture this. Somewhere in America, a coin jar sits untouched. Inside, a single penny glimmers, holding a secret its owner doesn't yet realize. Maybe it's in your house. Maybe it's in your change from the gas station. Maybe it's the coin you almost gave to a child's piggy bank. This penny almost slipped through the cracks of history. It was minted in 1978, marked with a small D for Denver, and for decades, it hid in plain sight. Collectors ignored it. Dealers dismissed it. Most people spent it without a second thought, but today, this very coin, the 1978 D Lincoln penny, is shaking the world of numismatics, with some examples selling for as much as $1.1 million. Yes, a coin worth a single cent. A coin that could have jingled in your pocket. A coin you may have tossed into a jar or slipped into a vending machine, and yet, in the right condition, with the right details, it's worth more than most people's homes. Why this year, this mint mark, this ordinary-looking penny? The truth is more shocking than you'd ever expect. Back in 1978, the Denver Mint was under immense pressure. Billions of coins were struck, machines worked around the clock, and quality control sometimes slipped, and in those brief moments, rare mistakes were born. Some pennies were struck with doubling in the lettering. Some with off-center strikes. Some with flaws so subtle, only the sharpest eyes could ever detect them, and it's those tiny mistakes, those microscopic anomalies, that transformed an everyday coin into a $1 million treasure. But here's the twist, not every collector knows exactly what to look for, and because of that, many of these rare 1978 pennies may still be out there, hiding in coffee cans, buried in drawers, or waiting quietly in circulation. A man in Colorado once dumped his old change on the counter of a coin shop. He thought it was just spare pennies. Nothing special, but the dealer froze. Among the pile was a 1978 Lincoln penny with a razor-sharp strike, flawless luster, and a doubling on Liberty so distinct, it looked like a shadow carved in metal. That 1 cent went on to bring nearly $1 million at auction. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to re-examine their boxes of 1978 pennies. Suddenly, what was once forgotten became a coin everyone was desperate to find. And here's where it gets even more incredible. This isn't just about errors. Condition is everything. Most 1978 pennies are scratched, worn, or dull from decades of use, but in pristine, uncirculated condition, what collectors call MS-67 or even MS-68, the value skyrockets. It's not just a coin anymore, it's a miracle of survival, and that survival, in flawless state, can mean the difference between 1 cent and over $1 million. But the story doesn't end there, because just when collectors thought they had seen the peak, another discovery shook the community. A variation so rare, so elusive, it rewrote the value charts overnight. A penny struck off-center, with the D mint mark nearly swallowed by the rim, surfaced in a private collection. No one knew it existed, and when it finally hit the auction block, the bidding war was fierce, relentless. The hammer dropped, and the crowd gasped. The final price? More than anyone had dared to predict. Another six-figure miracle, born from a coin most people would have tossed back into their change. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Stories of everyday people checking their jars, their wallets, their childhood piggy banks. One woman in Texas pulled out her late father's old cigar box, and inside, she found a 1978 penny in near-perfect condition. She couldn't believe it. The coin went through grading, came back with a stunning grade, and changed her family's financial future forever. This is why collectors are obsessed. Because it's not just about copper and zinc. It's about chance. Fate. The idea that a life-changing discovery could be sitting right under your nose, disguised as the most ordinary coin in America. And here's the question burning in your mind right now. First, look at the mint mark. If there's a clear D under the year 1978, you're holding a Denver minted penny. That's your starting point. Next, examine the lettering. Look for doubling on Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date itself. Even the faintest doubling could mean a fortune. Then, check the condition. If your coin is shiny, free of scratches, and looks nearly untouched, you could be staring at a rare high-grade survivor. Collectors pay staggering amounts for these flawless examples, and that's where the $1 million magic lies. But beware, not every shiny penny is a treasure. There are common machine doubling effects that don't add much value, and clean coins often lose their worth. That's why professional grading is the key. Only a certified, slabbed, high-grade 1978 penny will command those record-breaking prices, and yet, even now, thousands of Americans may unknowingly own coins forgotten in shoeboxes. Rolls left untouched for decades. Pennies that no one bothered to examine. So tonight, as you pour out your change, take a closer look. Run your fingers over the date. Study the mint mark. Hold it to the light and search for that doubling, because that little disc of copper could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The thrill isn't just in owning the coin, it's in finding it. The suspense, the chase, the possibility that your next penny could rewrite your future. The 1978 Lincoln penny is more than money. It's a symbol of hidden fortune, a reminder that miracles hide where we least expect them. 1 cent, that could be worth $1 million. 1 coin, that could change everything. The next time you reach into your pocket for a penny, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Search deeper. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.